We're just on our way into town now. Should take about 15-20 minutes to get into town. That's into the Liverpool city centre. You know, I come down here about once or twice a week because I go to an organic shop where I buy organic food in there, you know. But as you can see, the roads are getting a bit busier now than what they have been, because they're starting now to reduce the lockdown, reduce it, so that you can go to more places now, travel outside the area where you live. But this is the way things are. There's a lot more traffic on the road, and it should take us about, you know, 20 minutes to reach the city centre. It's 2:28 now, or 2:20 in the afternoon, and it's a, you know, Tuesday afternoon, the 6th of April. So let's go and see what's going on in town, and I might interview a few people. Today I'm going to talk about psychopathy, narcissism, and stuff like that, you know. Mainly about narcissism though, because I believe that our leaders today are narcissistic. A lot of them are the Prime Minister, the people on the cabinet. Some of them are even psychopathic, but mainly narcissistic, you know. But anyway, let's get into town. Well, we're nearly in the city centre now. A couple of more minutes once we can get past these traffic lights. Weather's not too bad today. A little bit chilly, a bit cold, but not too bad. Summer's not far away. We're in spring now, but let's carry on. We're just on our way into town. That's the Liverpool University there. Parts of the Liverpool University, which is pretty big. Of course, it covers quite a large amount of land. That's where we have classes in those buildings there, and tutors, officers within there, you know. That's the Liverpool University swimming baths, or swimming baths, you know. There's the liver buildings there sticking up at the end, as you can see. There's the tower again. I used to be up there on Radio City when they had City Talk. I used to go up there once a week and speak, which I've said on other videos. I suppose you're getting fed up listening to it, but you know, we're still stuck in Liverpool at the moment. I believe we can go to Wales now, so I'll be going out of Liverpool shortly. In the next few days I'll be going up to Wales. A bit more vehicles in town now than what there normally is, but there's still not many people. But we'll take a look when we get closer into the city centre. Well, we're on Bow Street now, and I wonder if I can get anyone's attention to speak to them about the issues that I want to speak about. Let's ask these two here. Excuse me. I'm doing a vlog, you know, I'm a vlogger. I just wanted to know what you guys thought about psychopaths and narcissists. Because you've obviously met them.
They're one of the same, aren't they?
What?
I said they're one of the same, aren't they?
Not really, no. There's a slight difference between a psychopath and a narcissist. Well, there's a big difference actually. Then you've got sociopaths, and the types of people. But the main person you'll meet daily are narcissists. These are people that twist things around and create timelines, and especially narcissists who are covert. You don't know what they're doing. They're ringing up people behind your back and all sorts of different things, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I can't say I've come across anybody who rings a bit behind your back.
Well, we've all got narcissistic traits, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true.
It depends on the degree of it, I suppose.
Yeah,
some
that's
people
true.
have got a lot of them. Some people, you know, some of it's insecurity. Social media seems to, you know, really sort of, I think, sort of make a lot of people turn into narcissists. But are they just insecure? Now I'm a mental health nurse, so I've come across people with all the.
Oh, are you a psychiatric nurse, are you?
Yeah.
So you'll know about that.
Well, I've seen all the different personalities.
Well, you'll know about
disorders.
schizophrenia, won't you, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But narcissism's a really hard thing to sort of like get a grasp of.
No, it is, because sometimes you think, well, they're narcissistic, but then you might even have a friend who you think that. But then you think, well, are they? You doubt yourself and think, are they just...
Well, that's what narcissists are experts at.
Very difficult to, I know.
Narcissists, covert narcissists, family narcissists and people like that, what they're experts at is twisting things around so you look like you're the one who's causing all the trouble and not them. But they do this over a timeline, over a certain length of time, and they get what's called narcissistic supply. When they know they're getting to someone and they cause trouble, they get supply from it because they know that nobody knows it's them.
Very charming as well.
They do get found out eventually, sometimes.
How come you're doing this? Have you got family members who are...
No, I'm looking at it from a political angle.
Right.
I'm convinced that the Prime Minister of this country and the
he's very narcissistic,
and the 24 people, 5 people who sit on his cabinet are all millionaires and narcissistic.
Of course, and Boris Johnson's a well-known narcissist.
Maybe a bit psychopathic
seeker,
as well.
Meghan
you know?
Markle.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it was great meeting you guys.
And you.
Listen, have a nice day, okay?
Bye.
I'll see you guys. As you know, on the 6th of May, or the 7th of May, it's normally on the 6th, there's going to be an election in the city, a local government election, not for MPs but for councillors. And there's 90 councillors, I think, sitting on the council. Most of them are Labour. Although you have got some Liberal Democrats and Liberals, 2 Liberals and a couple of Greens. It's mainly all Labour. And as you know, the Mayor of Liverpool has recently been arrested and he's been suspended from his job as the Mayor, and you know, he's under investigation by one of the top investigative teams, the Matrix team. And his son's under investigation, and other councillors and senior officers within the council, all over land deals and stuff like that, you know, and suspicious property developers and stuff like that.
Now, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that's the case, you'd think that the Liverpool people wouldn't be voting for them, Labour, because they haven't done a very good job in this city up to now, have they?
Well, they probably don't represent Labour really in its truest form, do they? I mean, the problem is when people become councillors and MPs, it's not always for the best interests, is it? We know that. We know the MPs' expenses years and years ago, whether you can rely on MPs, so what's their motive? So it's very difficult to actually find, you know, good MPs and good councillors. So those people who have been supposedly corrupted, that's what's happened, and that's what people think may have happened, certainly. Then, you know, hopefully in due course justice will be done around that, because it's really important to have people who are representing the people to be ethical. And
but the
it's
problem,
really hard to find that, isn't it?
Well, the problem is
Labour, Liberal or whoever.
When you get to the councils and you get the elected members, there's ordinary folk who live in various communities, and the problem with them is, in this city, you know, the people here, they've got what you call tribal voting.
Yes, that's right. It's true.
They'll even vote Labour in, even if they're corrupt.
Yeah, because I suppose they don't think too much about it now. I mean, it's a Labour constituency, Liverpool, for the right reasons, for good reasons, but maybe the political system needs to change, really. Maybe we need to look at having MPs and councillors in who and check the backgrounds and see whether, I mean, a lot of MPs know nothing about education or health.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Yeah. You know, in the House of Commons, which the House that represents the common people, or if you want to call it the House of Parliament, there are 650 MPs, and out of those MPs, 25 of them are ministers, including the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, if you look closely at it, they are the people who are running the country, except for major votes. You're right. They're deciding everything on that small cabinet. Now, most of them are millionaires. They're all upper middle class. They all went to Oxford and Cambridge and universities like that. And they're also, there's suspicion over the fact that a lot of them have got narcissistic tendencies, Some of them are even psychopathic. And the whole, over hundreds of years since the House of Commons started, I think it started under Cromwell, I'm not sure. It's hundreds of years old. But the thing is, since it started, could it be that it's evolved in such a way that it's automatically put structures into place, right, which encourage these sorts of people to get to the top? So the probability is we've got psychopaths and narcissists running local governments and central governments.
Yeah, it probably attracts that type of person, yeah. And they know what the pathway is, because that'll have been communicated to them. And unfortunately, you know, the vast majority of, as you say, 25 people are not really representing the country, are they?
No.
And you can be
67 million.
You can really be quite sure there's finance involved in that. What people have to consider is this what people want in the future? This political system, the way it's not working.
See, we're living in a system now we're living under a government and a Labour Party as well, where they had a couple of years ago they had select committees and they pulled in Facebook and they pulled in people from Twitter and from YouTube and Google, because they've got their main headquarters, Google, you know, in Dublin. So they brought them in here to London, and they had them on a select committee, and they berated them and gave kind of like veiled threats to them that if they didn't go along with the censorship programme that the government wanted, they could put structures into place which would harm them. Well, so they've had to go along with it. So it's, you know. So those. So they're part of the government now.
In some ways, yeah. It is becoming more linked, and you know, I mean, so it's a difficult situation really. People have to decide, you know, whether we want.
Yeah, but we're supposed to live in a democracy. Is it a democracy?
Well, probably not really.
The other day asked me, he said, "Are you a Christian?" When I confessed my sin on with this on.
I didn't notice it. All this I did for you, yeah. Which church are you in?
None.
No church, no.
Not interested. I
can understand that.
Churches before God today are a waste of time.
Witness with my
Totally complete waste of time.
This is the real McCoy, what you're doing here.
Well, the Lord said in Mark 16, go into all the world.
I know, and preach the
world needs
word.
evangelising, not pulpitizing.
And he said, I'm baptised in the name of the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
But there is one church that doesn't believe that.
So why
and I went to that church, I stopped going.
So why bother with them?
Well, if they say that one scripture is wrong in the Bible,
throw them in the bin.
Well, they're wrong, because nothing in the Bible's wrong.
That's right.
And it says in Revelations, whoever takes or adds to this book,
22 verse 18 and 19.
Yeah, what all the horrors that are in this book and plagues and everything will be added unto them.
Now I don't know how he does that one, but verse 19 bothers me a heck of a lot. Take your place out of the holy city.
Yeah.
Out of the book of life and out of the holy city. That's a very, very serious position to be in. But we think we're safe and do what we like and expect God to accept it because we're doing it.
Oh, by the way, if you get the chance next Sunday,
He's a God of love and
we're starting a church in the park, but there's no pastor. There's no leaders or pastors or anything. And
morning by morning,
we're having it in Calderstones Park, and it starts between 1 o'clock and 1:30.
This steadfast love never ceases.
If you can, or put the word around.
I live in Bootle.
It's called Church in the Park. And it's different, everyone can speak. There's no just the pastor speaking all the time and his family. Everyone can speak, everyone can join in, give you testimony or anything. Okay?
Sounds good.
I'll see you, mate.
Just one thing before you go. God never ever at all at any time, both Old and New Testaments, gave us a religion to follow.
He didn't
None
know.
whatsoever.
No.
He gave us a son, and because we have his son, we have a relationship.
You know, says in the Bible,
we prefer the religions instead and expect God to accept it just because we do. It doesn't work that way.
I know.
Jesus didn't die for how good or bad you are. Jesus died because you're a sinner. And all religions are sin because they're outside of God. And that is very serious and it's very deadly.
I know that, because some Christians believe different things. Some not Christians, but Christian churches.
Religious people, yes.
Anyway, listen, I'm going to have to get off. Look after yourself. And God bless you.
What are you going to do with that?
Just put it on YouTube.
I've never been before.
I'll see you anyway.
Entered into the world.
Great guy there. You can learn a lot off these Christian people. They know the score. They know what's going on. you know. Well, we're just walking down Church Street, as you can see. There's not many people out today, but there's normally less than this. So there's more out today than what was out the other day. But it's still dead, as you can see, because all the shops are still closed. We don't really know when these shops are going to open. It's supposed to be on the 12th of next month. That's May. Is it the 12th of May or the 12th of March? We don't know. But the restrictions are slowly being lifted. You know? I'm just going to ask people who they're going to vote for in the forthcoming elections. You know? But it's getting people to speak to, because Liverpool people don't like speaking on to cameras. Not many people in this country do, to be honest with you. But let's see who they're going to vote for in Liverpool, because the probability is that they're all going to vote for Labour again, because they always vote Labour, they can't help it. Jack Straw said if you stood a donkey in his Kirby ward, they'd vote the donkey in. The people would if you put a Labour sign on the donkey. That's what it's like in Liverpool. If you put a Labour sign on a donkey, the Liverpool people would vote the donkey in. It's tribal voting. They can't help it, they just vote Labour all the time. But who else is there to vote for? You know? Excuse me, are you going to vote in the May elections?
Yes, of course.
Are you going to vote for Labour?
Yes.
Even though the mayor in this city has been done for corruption?
Well,
he's suspended.
He's in prison, we won't be voting for him.
He's not in prison now. He's still under investigation. He'd probably get away with it. But he's not the mayor anymore, there's no mayor.
That's not the Labour Party's fault, that's his fault.
Well, there's also allegations against elected members there's 90 members in the council. That's councillors. 80 of them, I think, are Labour. Right, and there's a lot of councillors who've had allegations levelled against them, and senior officers within the council, management. So why would you vote Labour if you know that the Labour Party is corrupt?
I mean, are you comparing it to the Conservative
in Liverpool, I mean.
Party? Are you comparing it to the Conservative Party, who are on record as having given contracts to friends and...
But Labour have done that as well. But they have, I know I can't argue with you. The Conservative Party are just as bad.
Nah, they're worse.
You couldn't put a cigarette paper between the two of them.
They're worse, honestly, they're worse. Because they don't even try and hide it.
Don't you think it's about time we give someone else a chance? These two parties.
What, the Tories?
No, give someone else a chance other than the Tories and Labour.
I admire... I don't think that's ever going to happen with the first past the post voting system, though. I admire anyone who says that we should think about giving other parties a chance, but realistically, because of the archaic voting system we have, there is just no
but even
way
if we had proportional representation, we just end up like they are in the Republic of Ireland and in Europe with hung parliaments. Proportional representation creates hung parliaments.
So does first past the post voting system. Look at how we ended up with a hung parliament under Theresa May and under David Cameron, ending up with the coalition with them and the Lib Dems.
In general, proportional representation is not proportional representation.
So I agree with proportional representation. I'd sooner have that. But they won't let you have it, will they? Because they know what's good for them.
So that's why I'm voting Labour.
Well, when they had to vote on it, we were too young to vote. We couldn't vote for any sort of alternative vote.
So are you socialists, are you? Democratic socialists?
I would consider myself a centrist.
Yes,
we're probably a rare breed in 2021 with increasing polarisation. And I think
what do you think of nationalists? I mean, like the Scottish Nationalist Party, and like you've got nationalist parties like UKIP with a nationalist party.
In general, I think they tend to breed an us versus them mentality.
Which?
An us versus them mentality. I wouldn't.
They've also been accused of being racist as well when they're not. I mean, I'm a nationalist, I'm not a racist.
No, I know.
So does that mean the Scottish Nationalist Party are racists?
Not in general.
Do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean.
But in this country, though, in England, we've brainwashed through the media we've indoctrinated people to think anything. The word nationalist means fascism
Well,
for some reason.
Historically, has been a proven link between nationalism and fascism, has there not? Could you?
Well, why won't they say that about the Scottish Nationalist Party? They don't ever accuse them of that. But they do UKIP and other parties.
The Scottish Nationalist Party are a left-leaning party. They're not a fascist party.
But do you mind if I just ask you a couple of things?
Go on, yeah.
You do know, don't you, that it's May the 6th, I think it is, or the 7th,
Yeah.
there's going to be elections,
Yeah.
right, in this city. And the Labour Party are in a terrible mess at the moment. Starmer, who's the leader of the Labour Party nationally, that's in this country, he has stopped 3 Labour councillors from running to be mayor
Yeah.
because our mayor now is under investigation for corruption, for fraud, for vested interests,
Yes.
breaching vested interests by giving work to his son. There's other people involved, gangster builders and all sorts of different things. And there's even a man now who comes up on YouTube. He pays YouTube. He comes up and tells you how bad the Liverpool City Council is, because he's a property developer who's had trouble with them over the years, and with Joe Anderson, and how vindictive Joe Anderson is. You know what I mean? But Joe Anderson isn't the mayor anymore. He's been suspended, but he's not coming back, and he's under investigation by the Matrix team. You know, for serious allegations. So are senior officers in the council. They've had allegations levelled against them, do you get me? Senior officers and councillors, elected members, you know. Now, do you not think that the people of Liverpool are a bit crazy? They'd still go out and vote Labour. They'd still vote Labour.
Probably because this is my view of it is the Tories have always done that. You know, the rich have always done that.
They've not done anything like that in city councils.
I think the rich get away with that all the time.
I'm talking about
in terms of property development and backhanders and stuff
They
like
do,
that.
yeah, but I'm talking about politicians who are making money out of it.
The thing that I don't like about it is when you elect people to be a party of the people, and then they continue to behave in a way of the powerful. That is the disgrace. I don't know whether the antidote is not to vote Labour. It could possibly be. I'll be thinking about it on the day. I don't know what the antidote is, but certainly it's a disappointment, isn't it? Every time we get when we get close to power, like New Labour, like Blair, they fuck us. So, oh my jeez, I've just swore.
Oh, don't worry.
Edited.
Gives it a bit more.
Just in case the kids.
I'll
hear
edit it out. But yeah.
So that's the big disappointment, and I don't know what the answer is other than take back the power, I suppose, somehow. But I don't know whether people
don't think
do
though
that
the British people need to sort of level up. You know, British people start researching.
Yeah, well,
there's no excuse now. The internet's there, isn't it?
Well,
why don't they research and find out what's going on?
Yeah.
They just instead go out and vote Labour without even researching.
Well, that's what happened years ago, isn't it? The first thing that they did was remove a decent education. So our kids are not critical thinkers. You know, the majority of people are no longer accessing literature. You know, as you said, they're going on the internet, or they're getting fed stuff through Facebook, and that's all being in charge by the big giants, haven't they?
I don't know. A lot of the stuff that you get on Facebook, what the kids are doing, or what the young people like you are doing, they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
What the stuff they're coming out with, the truth. But the children are. I don't know how old you guys are. Well, at school you were indoctrinated, but you don't know that. You don't know you were indoctrinated. You do know, yeah.
It's the problem is that schooling isn't education.
You spoke about critical thinking before, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm an exponent of that because I studied Paulo Freire,
Oh yeah.
The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. I've studied all his
My
books,
favourites.
and those books were to teach the oppressed why they're being oppressed, and who's oppressing them, and what narratives are put into place to brainwash you. Do you understand me? And the thing is, though, the British people don't want to know that. They still go out and tribally vote Labour.
But it's right what you're saying, young kids now, they're not taught to think critically, and they're pacified really easily.
I believe in critical dialogue. Not monologue, dialogue, critical
dialogue.
dialogue.
In the education system now in secondary schools, where did they get that? Where did they get that kind of debate?
It's deliberately enshrined, that's the word you could use, into the national curriculum. it's all done in a very deceptive manner. Do you understand me?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's deceptive. But listen, thanks for talking to me.
Oh yeah.
I hope I haven't depressed you.
No, we're on.
And the mayor has been suspended for corruption. I mean, can you see the enormity of that?
Well, it's obviously huge, isn't it? If he's been suspended, it wouldn't be without reason or suspicion.
Yeah, but he's even got one of the most top investigative teams in the city called the Matrix team. They investigate real heavy-duty crime and criminals, you get me? And they're investigating Joe Anderson and some of his colleagues, do you follow me?
Yes.
Now, yeah, we've got an election in a couple of weeks' time, in May. Local government, that means the councils, nothing to do with Parliament, obviously. Local council elections, where at least a third of these people in here, or over a third, because we didn't have any elections last year, will run for local government elections for wards in this city.
Yeah.
And yet the Liverpool people will still vote Labour in, even though it's having allegations of corruption.
Well, it's a democracy, isn't it? So people are free to vote for what they want. So there's obviously, with Joe Anderson being suspended, there's clearly under suspicion, and I'm sure, I've got faith in the system that there are other people involved, that they'll be investigated, and obviously justice would be brought to those people. But ultimately, it's down to the people what they decide to vote, and quite often that's driven by what happens at Westminster as opposed to what happens.
Well, the Labour Party did do a good thing at Westminster, at central government level. What they did was they stopped 3 people from running to be mayor in Liverpool. They stopped them. They said, sorry, you cannot run to be mayor because of their past history, which the Echo didn't go into, the local media. But I thought that was good of the leader of well, not good, but I thought it was a good move, I think, by him to do that, taking into account the state of the council.
It feels like the right thing to do, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels like the right thing.
But don't you think that that's shameful as well, that the Labour Party leader nationally has had to do that, to stop these 3 people from running?
Well, I think there's always corruption wherever you look. So the fact he's done that is the right thing to do. Arguably, you shouldn't have to do it in the first place, but I mean, inevitably, there will be some corruption wherever you go, because people are influenced by other things, and not everybody has the same moral compass. So I think it's obviously unfortunate what's happening in Liverpool at the moment, but equally, I've got trust and faith in the system that the right thing to do.
Just one more thing in collusion, because you look like you're in a rush, is I've done a lot of work and research into the issues of narcissism, psychopathy and sociopathy connected with our leaders in the council level and within central government. And do you think there's a possibility that the House of Commons or the House of Parliaments have evolved in such a way over the hundreds of years, whereas people with certain personalities reach it to the top in there as ministers, prime ministers and deputy prime ministers? I'm talking about people who have narcissistic tendencies.
I think if you're going to be successful, there will always be an element of narcissism within your personality. Of course, sort of successful people aren't otherwise. It's very rare, at least. So I think that'll always be there. When that crosses the line is what shouldn't be there. But I think that's why, like I said, I put faith in the system for people to do the right thing, and ultimately you won't vote for somebody that is a fraud.
Just going to talk to these two guys here, incredible guys. They're out doing a bit of meditation in Church Street. This is Church Street, as you can see, and these 2 guys here are meditating, and this guy's got a book that he found which is full of things connected with meditation and such like.
The Healing Handbook.
The which?
The Healing Handbook.
The Healing Handbook. Let's see if I can kneel down and talk to these guys.
The Kneeling Handbook today.
It's okay, mate.
So, if you want.
What's your name?
My name's Hugo. Yeah.
And what's your name?
I'm Luke.
Luke and Hugo. And so you've just been telling me there that you think that the state does oppress the people, and you don't trust the media or anything. You think there's an element of indoctrination within the media and within the schools.
Absolutely,
yeah. You're only 24, so you left school only a few years back, didn't you?
Yes.
Do you think when you were at school you were being indoctrinated through the educational system?
I think life is a steady process of being made to adhere to authority. You get used to bowing down and accepting what people tell you to do, and from a very early age, we're indoctrinated into that lifestyle. So then when we come into society, we do what we're told. More recently, there's been a lot more hard-hitting adjectives and sort of like fear-mongering words that have been used by the media to shell shock people into a state of fear, which is like a low vibration, and it's a very low vibration, and it keeps people basically controlled. And if you try to approach people in the street now to talk to them and stuff, you can see the terror.
They're scared,
you can feel the terror.
People are scared because they're scared to think, oh, I might lose my job if that what I'm saying goes on the internet.
But
you know.
They also think we're going to cause them harm, which is the weirdest thing. Is that our fellow brothers, our fellow people, they're so convinced in their mind that they're being looked after by the government more than their fellow kin. You know, that's for me, that's the hardest one to get, because we're going to save each other. It's not going to be government that comes in and saves everything. You know, like we're going to.
So what you're saying is it's important that people come more together as groups.
Yeah, man. Community. Where's the group love?
Another thing I wanted to ask you, because
group consciousness.
You're both very clever guys. What I wanted to ask you was, is a subject concerning narcissism and psychopathy. Right. There is sociopathy, but psychopathy and narcissism.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that the House of Commons, which is the house that represents the common people, which is government, I believe that the leaders and the cabinet and the Prime Minister and the ministers, 25 ministers of Prime Minister, they're the people who are really running the country, just 25 people. I believe that those people, that it's evolved over hundreds of years, because it's hundreds of years old, the House of Commons. I believe that it's evolved and they put structures into place that only narcissists can get to the top. Do you believe that?
I feel something very similar, that actually this system is rigged for basically servants of money, which money is, brings out a lot of things such as narcissism, greed, not being empathetic, not being connected to the community, and gathering, yourself, building your walls very high within yourself and your house, and protecting because the other person's going to come and take away your wealth, and it's all built on the fear of scarcity, so that there's only a certain amount left and that we don't live in abundance, and so we need to keep it close. And I do believe that there's a lot of people at the top that are the servants for money, money being the biggest kind of entity that has hit us, that has changed us into this kind of world.
Well, I don't really know if you're aware of this. There are 2,215 billionaires on the planet, that's all. There's 7.6 billion people on the planet, but only 2,000 billionaires. And they control most of the governments, especially in the Western world. People like George Soros, Bill Gates and other people. And they're all narcissistic. So how are we ever going to get any sort of utopian society when we've got people like this to deal with who are running the world?
What we're hoping
But there's just one thing, sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
There's just one thing, all of the people that sit on the cabinet are upper middle class, they're all millionaires and they're all globalists and they're all involved with them billionaires. So they're there at their beck and, do you get me? But what was you going to say? I'm sorry.
I think recently there's been a unanimous feeling in the place where we are in Glastonbury that there is a war on consciousness at the moment, and what the government and the rest of the world are trying to do is basically keep people on a lower sense of consciousness, a lower sense of their surroundings and their connection to God and a higher sense of being. We're realising now that to elevate our sense of consciousness, we need to get back together, ground ourselves, and not be fearmongered by, the media, by the BBC.
Would you say that you guys were empaths? Would you say you was an empath?
I would say I have the ability to be empathetic, but I was in a relationship for 6 years, and I definitely do have the ability to have narcissistic tendencies as well, and I think that comes when we get put into a situation when we're out of balance, and we lose that kind of natural empathy, connectedness to the community. The unconditional giving of love stops because we're scared, and then we start going the other way instead of giving, which is taking,
it's interesting,
and the narcissism is about, isn't that about causing pain and really not caring? So actually, you're taking away people's, or you're giving them pain, or you're taking away people's comfort and safety, and you don't really give a shit.
There you go, lad. Yeah. So we've got a lot of people, young people begging in Liverpool, which it shouldn't be like that.
No.
We're still miles away from any sort of utopian society, aren't we? Ta-ra, lad.
Well, I heard you can't get free food much around here at all. Come from Glastonbury, there's food parcels everywhere.
There are people around at the night time around here, from the Catholic Church and that, giving out food. You know, but food should be free everywhere. Listen, guys, I'm going to shoot off. It was great talking to you. 2 guys from Glastonbury, really clever guys. Look after yourself, guys, okay? Hi, everyone. I'm just on my way home from town, and I've just met a lady that I know. She's a great woman, and I'm just going to ask her some questions. Hello.
Hello.
How have you been anyway?
I'm
okay?
good, Mike. I'm good,
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you was, obviously you won't know much about local politics, will you?
Not yet. I'm learning.
So you do know, don't you, that the Liverpool City Council has 90 councillors?
I didn't know that now.
That's 90 people go to the town hall and sit and at a full council meeting with all the benches, and they discuss various issues, pass legislation and all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
But this council we've got in now has had allegations of corruption levelled against it by the national media and by the local media. In fact, there's a massive article today, I believe, it's in one of the national newspapers. It's a 2-page article about Joe Anderson, our mayor, of corruption.
Corrupt Joe Anderson, he got arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, he's been suspended.
Yeah,
he's never coming back.
Yeah.
But 3 other councillors put their names forward this May to become mayor.
Yeah.
But the leader of the Labour Party in London got wind of it and cancelled them because they've got shady backgrounds as well.
Right.
Now, if those 3 elected members, councillors, have got shady backgrounds, there have been allegations as well that there are other councillors in there who are corrupt. So we have a situation where the mayor has had allegations of corruption. He hasn't been found guilty.
Yeah.
But it's still disgraceful that this has happened.
Exactly.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm still learning about politics and stuff, but I know that whenever it comes to voting, because, you know, there's people who say, like, oh, Tory or Labour or left wing, right wing. I don't go by that because I just think it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's all corrupt anyway. It's all a set-up. They put in who they want to put in because they're all puppets behind them. So I don't. If I'm going to put a vote in, it's always a no vote for me, because I've got no trust in them. Until I can see a big turnaround in politics and things take a turn for the better, then it's a no vote for me, always.
I've known you for over a year now, and I know that you're empathic. You're an empath. A lot of the people who were at that demo we were at were empaths. But what I wanted to ask you was this. You know, I've spoken to you about it before. It was about our leaders being narcissistic and psychopathic.
Oh God, yeah.
And it's evolved that way, the House of Commons, that these things are just, they put structures into place so only certain people get elected or selected for those positions as Prime Minister.
Exactly, and you know, even when it comes to the voting, they'll always, they're manipulative and they use fear to drive any type of agenda.
That's the main word, fear, yeah.
Exactly, and they'll manipulate the vote. They make you think you're doing you've got a choice by saying you can go out and vote, but they know who they're getting and who they're not getting in.
Well, because you're obviously a woken person, you know. You've emancipated yourself through studying, and there's no excuse now because the internet can emancipate people as much as these psychos tell us it can't, and the fake media. But you've emancipated yourself. But what I wanted to ask you was, what sort of future have we got to look forward to when the whole of our country is being run by psychopaths and narcissists?
Honestly, Mike, I think that depends on the people. I think it's going to take a lot. Because when you think about it, there's only a minority of people that are in power. The majority is the public who are getting controlled. So, but once that majority wake up to the minority, then it's game over for them.
Well,
really.
like I said before, in 4 weeks' time, or maybe less than 4 weeks, but it's nearly 4 weeks' time, we're going to have local elections for the councils. Not a general election, local elections.
Yeah.
And I can make a prediction to you now, based on my life experience, that even though the council's corrupt, the mayor has got, or they've had allegations of corruption against them, and they're under investigation by the Matrix team. Joe Anderson is, and he's used his power to give people contracts
Yeah.
His son got a contract, and that was looked upon as being something that Joe shouldn't have done. It was a vested interest.
Yeah.
You know, even though this has all happened over the last 12 months or even longer, the Liverpool people will still vote the Labour Party in, not even knowing about this, because they don't even read the media anyway. They just go and vote Labour tribally.
Yeah.
I vote Labour because my father voted Labour. I remember saying to one fella, listen, you vote Labour because your father voted Labour. He said, yeah. I said, tell me what the Labour's manifesto is. He didn't know what that meant. He said, is that a pizza? Do you see what yeah, he went out and voted Labour.
And that's the thing people just do for the sake of doing.
I said to him,
it's like
listen friend, don't take offence, I said.
Yeah,
but when you went out and voted Labour, and you don't even know their manifesto or anything about them, you went out as a tribal voter, you're making my life worse.
Yeah.
Do you not understand
That's
that?
What I mean, people, if you're gonna, goes with anything, if you're gonna do anything, whether you're gonna vote or even if it's just like a meal that you're ordering, look into what it is before you make that decision. It's the same with anything.
British people, there's no excuse now. The internet's there, and they should research.
Exactly.
But Liverpool people, I don't know what it is. They just keep voting Labour or the Liberals or Labour. The last 10 years, it's been Labour, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's 10 years, isn't it? I'm not sure.
I can get. I know it's been Labour for a long time. I know that, but yeah, I am hopeful. I do hope to
We've
see
got a
change
Tory government and a Labour
all,
local council.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Anytime.
Great girl. So
And he's a great
look after
guy
yourself.
As well. I shall do, and yourself.
That's what I love. Give us a hug. Bye, love. And she's
See you later,
22, by the way. She only looks 17, 16, but she's 22. I hope you don't mind me giving your age away there. I'll see you, darling.
See you later, Mike.
Bye, love.